Hi friends, welcome to Beautifully Bookish Bethany. It is that time yet again, time to talk about all the new books that have come into my collection in September. Alright, September book haul, and let me know in the comments down below if these are videos you guys are continuing to find interesting or exciting. I know book hauls tend to get a lot of views, and my thinking is that it will give you some idea of like things that I might want to be reading soon or things that I'm excited about or whatever, and so I like doing them, but let me know your thoughts. With that said, let's go ahead and start with my pre-orders or like brand new releases that have come onto my radar this month, because I feel like there's more than usual. Like, I don't always have so many pre-orders, but I had quite a few. First one I'm very excited about. I low-key want to read this in October, and if I wasn't already so committed to things, I still might. Like, it's still on my like maybe TBR, but we'll see. This is White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. I mean, just look at the cover. It's gorgeous, and I hear that this book is truly quite scary. It's a YA creepy haunted house story, and I'm excited for it. I've been wanting to read from Tiffany D. Jackson for a while. I've never read from her, and this just sounded very much up my alley. Then Barnes & Noble was doing a thing where they had like discounted prices on new releases that you could pre-order, and I got sucked in, guys. I pre-ordered this. It's Brandon Sanderson's Dark One. It's the first volume in a graphic novel that he's doing. I heard him talk about it at an event that I attended, and it sounded really interesting. This is the Barnes & Noble cover. I have not read it yet, but it sounded like fun. I also pre-ordered So Many Beginnings by Bethany C. Morrow. This is a remix of Little Women. I have already read this. I had an advanced copy of it, and I really liked it and wanted to add it to my shelves. The book is so pretty, and Little Women is one of my favorites, and I think what she did with it, like, look at that, it's so beautiful. I think what she did with it in remixing the story and the characters is very clever and very interesting. It follows a Black family in the South during the Civil War and Reconstruction era, and yeah, it's really interesting. Definitely worth a read. I also went ahead and picked up Requiem of Silence by Elle Penelope. This is the final book in the Earth Singer series, the only one that I have not yet read. I did have an e-arc of this, but I don't think I realized how long it was, and I kind of hate reading super long books on ebook. I kind of despise it, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy the physical book to read. So I have the physical book. I am planning on reading it because I've loved the series and I'm excited to complete it. I also bought a copy of The Flames of Albion by Jean Menzies. So she actually is a pretty big booktuber you guys might be familiar with, Jean Bookish Thoughts, and she just published her debut indie fantasy novel. She's calling this Hope Punk. It's a queer fantasy story that sounds awesome, and the cover is lovely. So congratulations to Jean for your very first release. I went ahead and got a copy of that. And then lastly, I pre-ordered Harlem Shuffle by Colson Whitehead. I really love what I've read from him. The Underground Railroad and the Nickel Boys already exist on my bookshelf. I think they're amazing, and I'm actually not even super sure what this book is about, but I just really trust him and trust his ability to tell a story that is going to be interesting and well executed. And I mean, look at the cover. It's so colorful and beautiful, and it's set in Harlem. So I was like, yes. And it was another one that Barnes & Noble had a deal on where it was like X% off if you pre-order it. I got it. Next is books that were sent to me this month, either from publishers for review, or I have a few advanced copies that were sent to me from a friend of mine, so I'll share those. I have a bunch of books from Harlequin. These are sent to me for promotion on Instagram, like I take pictures of them and stuff, so they sent me quite a few. Let's start with the category romances. These are great if you want just like a quick, fun romance that won't take you long to read, because they're usually about 200 pages. We have Manhattan's Most Scandalous Reunion by Danny Collins. This is a second chance romance where a woman is mistaken for a supermodel by the paparazzi and goes to hide in her ex's apartment, and flames rekindle. Then A Very Intimate Takeover by Laquette. She's ruthless in business, but vulnerable in his arms. She's falling for the second in command in her family's business, and she wants to prove that she's capable of taking over, and then there's like a romance between the two of them. Secrets of a One-Night Stand by Naima Simone, which sounds very soapy and fun. This is about a woman who finds out that her one-night stand was actually with the man who is her new boss, and then she finds out she's pregnant. The last category romance is The Lights on Knockbridge Lane by Roan Parrish. This looks like a really cute male-male holiday romance, small town cozy vibes with a single dad. And then lastly from Harlequin is The Gathering Table by Katherine Springer. This is part of their love-inspired line, which means that this isn't gonna be a steamy book, but like this just looks so nice and cozy. It's a book about friendship and starting over. It's a little unclear to me, like, if it's a romance or if it's more women's fiction. I'm not sure, but either way, it looks fun, has lots of fall vibes. Then, some of you might remember from a vlog project that I did, Entangled Publishing sent me Hitched to the Gunslinger by Michelle McLean. This is a Wild West romance that's kind of a comedy that sounds like it's gonna be really fun. And then lastly, Isabella from the Feminist Bookworm very kindly sent me 3 advanced reader copies. She's a bookseller and sometimes has extras or like things she's done with, and she was kind enough to send 3 things my way. The first one, she didn't tell me she was sending, but she added it in because I know she really wants me to read this book. She loved it. This is How the Word is Passed, A Reckoning with the History of Slavery Across America by Clint Smith, and it's even got like all her little tabs in it. So I am excited to check this out. I feel like when I first heard about it, I had been reading a lot of other similar books, but she was saying this is really fantastic. It's a nonfiction book. So thank you, Isabella. I will read this one. And then 2 2022 releases I'm excited for. First, I about flipped out when she told me, hey, I have an extra of this book that's like one of my most anticipated reads for next year. Any chance you'd be interested? I mean, yes. Yes, yes, yes. This is Extasia by Claire Legrand. She is one of my favorite authors, wrote one of my favorite horror novels, Sawkill Girls, and this is her second YA horror novel, and it has like witchy cult stuff in it, which is so my jam. I'm really excited for this. So this one is coming out in February, and I may be trying to read it in October. We'll see what I can do. And then lastly, she sent me one that I hadn't heard people really talk about, but it sounds interesting, and I love the cover. This one is coming out in March. It's The Book of Living Secrets by Madeline Rue, the author of the Asylum series. I never actually read those, but this sounded cool. It says it's perfect for fans of the Hazelwood in a genre-bending page-turner that follows 2 girls who transport themselves into the world of their favorite book, only to encounter the sinister alternate reality that awaits them, which sounds like a whole lot of fun. Sounds very up my alley. So thank you so much, Isabella. I'm very excited for those. Then I have a few books that I bought for video projects, one of which is the 3 books that I purchased for this Celebrities Pick My TBR thing. If you haven't seen this video yet, I'll link it up above. It was so much fun, honestly. Like, maybe the most excited I've been about a video in a while. I used the Cameo app to pay 3 celebrities to send me videos giving me personalized book recommendations, and then I read those books, and it was really cool. So the 3 books I got for that are The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi, which I loved, and I am now tracking down the other 2 books in the trilogy because I want to keep reading. The Martian by Andy Weir, and The Road by Cormac McCarthy. So if you want to hear about those, go check out that video. It was a really fun video. Then I have kind of a project in mind that I want to do at some point, and I bought 3 books for that, so I don't want to say too much about it because I don't really know when exactly I'm going to make this happen, but I've been thinking about it. And 2 of these are books that I actually bought on the recommendation of Mara from Books Like Whoa. First, we have Romancing God, Evangelical Women and Inspirational Fiction by Lynn S. Neal. This is an academic study of the role of inspirational romance amongst evangelical women, which is very interesting. Mara talks about this at greater length in a podcast episode that we did for my podcast, Chapter 3 podcast. So I will link that up above if you want to see it. It's on a separate YouTube channel, and she mentioned that one. Another book that I know about because of Mara is Jesus and John Wayne, How White Evangelicals Corrupted a Faith and Fractured a Nation by Kristen Cobies Dumez, and I decided to buy a copy of it. This is something I've been wanting to read. I am kind of in the process of deconstructing my evangelicalism. I still consider myself to be a progressive or liberal Christian, but that's kind of a journey I've been on, and so I'm interested in reading that. And then the last one was suggested to me by the internet, and it just looked really interesting. This is The Making of Biblical Womanhood: How the Subjugation of Women Became Gospel Truth by Beth Allison Barr. She is a historian, and this just also sounded really interesting. I have 3 books that I bought at Barnes & Noble when I was in Florida, which if you've seen that vlog, you've already seen these. I've got Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a horror novella by an Indigenous author who I really love. I've read a few things from him and they've been great. I also picked up The Villa by Nora Roberts, and Colonize This: Young Women of Color on Today's Feminism, edited by Daisy Hernandez and Bushra Raymond. So then I've got a couple of things that are sort of like BookTube made me do it purchases, I guess. I'm trying to remember who told me about this book. Where did I hear about this? I was talking to some other booktubers and it came up. This might have been when we were, before we recorded the World Hoppers video about Robin Hobb that I did. I'm not really sure. Anyway, but this is a book I heard about from booktubers. It's huge. I did not expect this to be so big. This is The Forgetting Moon by Brian Lee Durfee. I think he actually has a YouTube channel also, which I haven't seen, but someone told me he did. This book is enormous. So big. It's like 800 pages long, but I heard some good things about it, and somebody was telling me that he, I think, like used to be Mormon or something, and that informs how he writes in here. I don't know. I was interested. It sounded intriguing, so now I've got like a big chunky fantasy on my TBR. And then another chunky fantasy is Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. This is the UK cover. They're really pretty. I am planning on reading this trilogy in 2022. I really enjoyed the Farseer trilogy this year with the read-along, and so next year I want to do these, so I bought the first one. And then also from the UK, I decided to buy a physical copy of a novella that I read in ebook form from her that I really loved. This is The Willful Princess and the Piebald Prince by Robin Hobb. It is also set in the Farseer universe, and this is really interesting. If you haven't read it, it gives you a lot more context for why the wit is so hated, and the narrator is queer. It's very interesting. I liked it a lot. Then I have a couple things I picked up at some local indie bookstores that I checked out in the past month, and then my Book of the Month Club box, and that is it. So there's a nonprofit bookstore near me called Housing Works that I like to support, and so I'll occasionally go in there and kind of browse to see what they have. They sell used and donated books, and the proceeds go to a good cause. So I stopped by there this month and picked up a couple of things. First, I got The Lost Stories of Louisa May Alcott, and I think I probably read this years ago. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but you know how in Little Women, Jo wants to write these like fantastical, gruesome kind of stories before she writes Little Women? Well, Louisa May Alcott also wrote stories like that, and if you've never read any of them, I highly recommend them. They're a whole lot of fun. So there's a few different collections of these, and I've been wanting to get my hands on one to keep because I had found them at my library when I was younger, and I found that, so I picked that up. And then I also got a copy of The Last Emperor by John Scalzi. You saw earlier that I had read that first book for the video, and I loved it and was like, okay, I want the whole trilogy. So I bought this, and I have ordered Consuming Fire, but I wanted to support them where possible. Then for the first time, I went to this little bookstore that is really interesting. I think it's called something like the Anti-Imperialist Non-Harmful or something, like bookstore or something like that. And what's really interesting about this place is that they have like decent prices on books, but the stickers will tell you the base price plus what the tax costs. And then they have a thing where like you're charged an extra fee if you use a credit card where you don't get charged more for cash. It's like this really interesting little bookstore. Anyway, so I went there and I found a couple of books for pretty cheap that I'd been interested in and grabbed them. I decided to get Sabriel by Garth Nix. I think this was like $5 or $6, and I never actually read this. I know it was really popular when I was a teenager, but I never got around to it, and I have a lot of friends who really love it. So I decided, you know what, like, let's go ahead and grab a copy of that to read at some point. And then for only like $8, they had Pattern Master by Octavia Butler, which I eventually want to own and read all of her work. I really love what she does, and I know this is like later on in the series, so I need to get the earlier books, but for $8, I was like, yeah, sure, give it to me. That's great. Lastly, this month, I have my Book of the Month box. As you guys know, I do pay for this subscription myself. I really love them. It's $15 a month, including shipping for a new release or sometimes pre-release hardcover. And then you can add up to 2 add-on books per month for like 10 bucks each. And you can skip if you're not into any of the books. They always have 5 options in different genres. Usually once or twice a year I'll skip because I'm just not that interested. This month I did not, clearly. And I had 2 add-ons. If you guys are interested in joining, I do have a link down below, and if you use my link, I get a free book, which is nice. So if you're interested, that is there for you. This month there were some fantastic options. My pick for the month was The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Mara has been raving about this book. It is her favorite romance of the year. I've seen other people starting to read it and absolutely loved it, so I'm really excited. It's about a graduate student in the sciences and a professor, but he's not her professor, which I think is better. She's like a PhD student, and yeah, I hear this is really good and steamy and people seem to be loving it, so I got that. I also, of course, had to get Velvet Was the Night by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. She's basically become an auto-buy author for me. I love her work. I will read whatever she puts out. This one is a noir crime book that I think will be great. And then lastly, I got a copy of Transcendent Kingdom by Ya Jessie. I listened to this on audio and it was one of my favorite books that I read this year, and I knew I wanted to have a copy, so I was kind of waiting till it was available for pretty inexpensive on Book of the Month. And now I have it, so really excited for this. So there you go, those are all of the new books for September. And I've got to say, there are some fluctuations. There's some months where I'm like, okay, maybe I like slightly overdid it in spending, but for the most part, I'm actually pretty happy with where things are at. For the most part, I'm not bringing in more books than I'm reading, which is kind of the goal. So I seem to have hit like a pretty good balance of incoming to like outgoing. I would like to eventually address it a little bit so that I have fewer books on the TBR and like have it go down, but like at least it's like equalized, which is pretty good. So talk to me in the comments down below. Let me know any of your thoughts on any of these books. And for question of the day, let's talk about pre-orders. Do you pre-order books? And if so, tell me about a book that you've pre-ordered, something you're excited to have that you're like, yes, I know I want this, done. Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.